Hello boys and girls, welcome to the Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program. The Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program is a 30-minute radio intervention support program that is meant to provide continuous instruction to keep you academically engaged during this stay-at-home period, as well as preparing you, our 6th, 9th, and 12th graders for the pending Liberia Primary School Certificate Exam, Liberia Junior High School Certificate Exam, and West Africa Senior Secondary Certificate Exam when the time comes. Also, in addition to this academic support, the program is meant to provide psychosocial support for learners, teachers, and parents, and also tips on how you as parents and teachers can provide support to your students and children at home. Now, let's join our teacher for today's lesson.
Hello learners, parents and teachers. Welcome back to the Ministry of Education and Partners Coronavirus COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program. I am Linda Y. Dean, your teacher for this lesson, and this is a Rising and You Movement presentation. Our lesson for today is for grades 8 and 9. The subject is Social Studies, and the topic is the Colony of Liberia, 1822 to 1839. In our last lesson, we discussed from the abolition of slavery to the end of the colonial period. And for today's lesson, we will discuss the Colony of Liberia, 1822 to 1839. Please take your pen and pencil and copybook and get ready for today's lesson. Now, by the time this lesson is over, we expect our learners to be able to discuss the founding of additional colonies. They should also be able to discuss why have education and a Christian religion in Liberia been so closely tied together. Also, we expect each of our learners to be able to explain the economic development and reasons why economic progress was slow between 1822 and 1839, and also to discuss the territorial expansion of the colonies. Our key words for today are territorial, expansion, economic, colony, exports, annexation. Again, our key words for today are 1. Territorial, expansion, economic, colony, exports, and annexation. Annexation is spelled ANNEXATION, annexation. Now, between 1822 and 1839, Liberia was a colony of the American Colonization Society, the ACS. A colony is a country that is not free and independent. It was not until July 26, 1847, that Liberia became a free and independent state. Those who governed Liberia during the colonial period were called agents. They were neither elected nor appointed by the Liberian people, but rather appointment was made by the ACS. The colonial government was divided into 3 main branches that were not separate from one another. There was a colonial council composed of the vice agent and 2 persons or councillors who were elected by the colonists. The council performed as an advisory body to the agent. It was not an independent legislative assembly. The executive branch was headed by the agent, who, as already mentioned, was appointed by the American Colonization Society and was therefore accountable to it. The agent's assistant the vice agent, was elected by the settlers. In the colony, the agent was the most powerful official. He had the power to reject the people's choice for the colonial council. Under the colonial government, the council met only when the agent felt that it was necessary. The judiciary branch consisted of the Court of Monthly Sessions, over which the agent presided. He was assisted by 2 justices of the peace. Other minor departments of the colonial government were the Committees on Agriculture, Public Works, and Colonial Militia. Some of the officials of government that were directly appointed by the agent included the crier of the Court of Monthly Sessions, teachers, auctioneers, colonial secretary, librarian, and storekeeper. Now, Eli Aries governed the colony on and off between 1822 and 1823. He was finally succeeded by Jehudi Ashmun. Some historians have written that he came to Africa to work and pay debts that he owed in America. Other historians say Ashmun came to do missionary work so that God could forgive him for his sins. The colonists and Aborigines fought 2 major battles during the administration of Ashmun. We will refer to them as the Twin Battles of 1822. The first took place on November 10. It is known as the Battle of Crown Hill. During the clash, the African soldiers quickly drove the guards from their posts, but instead of pressing on, they stopped to loot the deserted buildings. At this point, Jehudi Ashmun, Elijah Johnson, and the colonists regrouped and opened fire with their cannons. Cannons are very big guns. The battle raged for about half an hour and ended in a defeat of the combined forces of the Vai, Dey, and Mambam Basa. After their victory, the settlers declared November 11 as holiday called Thanksgiving Day. That is, a day of giving thanks to God for having saved the settlement from destruction. On January 15, 1870, the national legislature passed a law which made the first Thursday in November a public holiday to be known as Thanksgiving Day. The natives, nevertheless, determined to stage another attack despite their defeat. They regrouped and besieged the colonists on the night of November 30. The situation was a little different during the second confrontation. This time, the Africans did not loot. They surrounded the barricaded colonists and attempted a few times to overrun them, but each time they were driven back. After about an hour and a half, they withdrew their siege. This happened during the early hours of the morning of December 1st. This battle is known in Liberian history as the Battle of Fort Hill. To gain further understanding of the 2 confrontations, it is essential to examine their root causes and the impact they left on the natives as well as the settlers. One major cause of the clash was the failure of the colonists to pay the balance of the articles for the land they purchased on December 15, 1821. Another reason was that the natives did not want their land sold. To further understand the underlying causes of the battles, it is useful to point out that for some of the African kings, the settlers were just another group of black people, like the Dey, Mambam Basa, or Vai, and should have therefore placed themselves under the authority of the local king. In discussing the two battles, mention should be made for assistance given by some natives to the settlers, in particular the assistance given by Chief Bai Kaya, whose chiefdom included Gomez Island opposite Providence Island. In December 1823, the colonists sent a list of grievances to the ACS. It was called the Remonstrance of 1823. A remonstrance is a protest or a list of grievances. In particular, they were demanding that in the distribution of town lots, not everyone should receive that same amount of acres. Also, the dissatisfaction with Ashmole's policy of economic self-reliance resulted in a widespread disregard for law and order. Ashmole was unable to convince the colonists that their actions were improper and unlawful. In anger and despair, Agent Ashmole left for home on April 1824 via the Cape Verde Islands. Upon his departure, he appointed Elijah Johnson to take charge of the settlement. Elijah Johnson was the father of President Hilary Richard Johnson from 1884 to 1929. In mid-1824, the corresponding secretary of the American Colonization Society, Ralph Randall Gurley, was appointed acting agent and dispatched to the colony. Gurley somehow stopped on the Cape Verde Island and persuaded Ashmole to return to his post. He agreed, and on their way to Ducor, the two men drafted a new set of laws and a plan for the government of the settlement. The plan is known in Liberian history as the Plan of the Civil Government of Liberia. It is also called the Gurley Constitution. It was Jehudi Ashmole who named Ducor as Christopolis, which means City of Christ. In 1824, the name was changed to Monrovia by General Robert Goodloe Harper of Maryland. Monrovia is named in memory of James Monroe, 5th President of the United States, during whose administration Liberia was established. It was also General Harper who gave the name Liberia to the whole colony. Liberia comes from the Latin word liber, which means free. Agent Ashmole suppressed slavery in and around the colony, especially in Bassa and near Monrovia. In 1825, he destroyed a large slave camp near Digby. In the following year, Ashmole demolished another slave camp at Bassa. In 1828, Ashmole bade farewell to the colony of Liberia in March, and his temporary successor was the vice agent Lord Carey. Lord Carey was a former slave from Richmond, Virginia. He bought his freedom and sailed to Africa on the Nautilus in 1821. In addition to the colony of Liberia, Monserrado, there were 4 other settlements on the Grain Coast: Edina, Bassa Cove, Mississippi in Africa, and Maryland in Africa. They were established by minor colonization societies in close collaboration with the ACS. Again, the principal objectives for the founding of additional colonies were not basically different from those which was founded earlier. In other words, they were created to resettle freed slaves from America who would then spread Western civilization and Western Christianity in Africa. Edina was founded by the Colonization Society of the State of New York. Bassa Cove at the mouth of the St. John River was founded by the Young Men's Colonization Society of the City of New York. Port Cressen, which is now Upper Buchanan, was one of the towns in the colony of Bassa Cove. It was destroyed on June 10, 1835 by King Joe Harris. As the story goes, the king was warned by slave traders that they might go elsewhere to buy slaves if and when Port Cressen decided to put an end to slavery in the region. Now, in order to keep the trade alive in the state, Joe Harris and a number of Bassa warriors attacked Port Cressen and leveled it to the ground. Help came from Liberia within a few days. Agent Macklin dispatched a force of about 125 militiamen under the command of Elijah Johnson, and with the assistance of Bassa Yellowtown and Bob Gray. Edina and Bassa Cove were united into one colony called Bassa Cove Colony. Mississippi in Africa was the name by which Sino County was known between 1837 and 1842. It was founded by the Mississippi State Colonization Society and for the same reasons for which other colonies had been founded. Mississippi in Africa was annexed to the Commonwealth of Liberia as Sino County. Let's discuss educational and missionary activities. In the history of Liberia, education and religion have been so closely tied together that it is very difficult to discuss one without the other. An explanation is that Liberia was founded by American churchmen and politicians to be the medium for spreading Western civilization and religion in Africa. In addition to conversion, churches have assisted the government in improving health conditions in the country. Some time ago, a church building performed three functions. It was a place of worship on Sunday. During the week, it served as a school, and on Saturday, it was converted into a clinic. In 1830, ACS constituted a special committee to address the question of education in a settlement. In its report, the committee recommended also that schools be established in Monrovia, Caldwell, and Millsburg, and placed under the direction and superintendence of the colonial agent. The committee further recommended arithmetic, writing, and reading be taught in these schools. The recommendations were approved and implemented. Before independence in 1847, two of the leading schools in the settlement were the Boys' School in New Georgia and Girls' School located at Caldwell. The Baptist religion is the oldest in Liberia, and its first pastor was the Reverend Lord Carey. The Methodists arrived in 1833 under the leadership of Melville B. Cox. In Maryland in Africa, the Presbyterians came in 1834 under the leadership of Pastors John L. Wilson and Stephen R. Wynkoop. In Cape Palmas, they worked among the Africans. Their important school was the Fair Hope Mission. The Protestant Episcopal Church arrived in Maryland in Africa in 1834 under the pastorship of the Reverend Thomas R. Savage. Like the Presbyterians, the Episcopalians were more involved with the natives. The Roman Catholic Church came to Liberia in 1842. The first priests were Fathers John Kelly and Winston Barron. The Catholics did not remain for long in the colony. Jealousy on the part of other Christian religious groups, along with tropical illness, compelled them to leave within a few years. The American people have always supported the cause of education in Liberia. The American Colonization Society, its assistant organizations, and individual Americans assisted Liberia with teachers, money, and school supplies. You are listening to the Ministry of Education and Partners COVID-19 Teaching by Radio program, and our subject for today is Social Studies with the topic The Colony of Liberia, 1822 to 1839 for grades 8 and 9. And I am your teacher, Linda Y. Dean. More of these lessons can be heard on the following radio stations. 1. Truth FM 96.1, 2. ELBC 99.9, 3. ECOWAS Radio 91.5, 4. Cool FM 91.9, 5. Freedom FM 87.9, 6. Elon 98.7, 7. OKFM 99.5, and 8. Hot FM 107.9. You can also hear more of these lessons on other community radio stations across the country. Welcome back, students, and please keep safe. Coronavirus is real. We are going now to discuss economic development of Liberia and territorial expansion. Economic progress was slow in Liberia between 1822 and 1839 for a number of reasons. First of all, there were no highways on which produce from the hinterland could be transported regularly to the coast where international trade was carried on. Furthermore, very few Liberians had enough money to begin their own businesses. Another reason why trade did not boom among Liberians was that nearly every tribe was self-sufficient. That is, each tribe produced enough food to sustain itself. But most importantly, majority of the settlers preferred government and politics to business. The chief products of international trade and commerce were palm oil, piassava, wild rubber, ivory, and coffee. They were exported to such countries as England, Germany, France, Holland, and the United States. 3 of the few leading traders during the colonial period were Lord Carey, Colson Waring, and Francis Devaney. Now, students, do you know that the colonies did not expand as rapidly between 1822 and 1839 as they did thereafter? Expansion during any period in Liberian history was done chiefly in 3 ways. First, direct purchase from the Africans. Such acquisitions were made because the land contained valuable natural resources or for the purpose of earning slavery in it. The purchase of the region occupied by the Vai in the Galenas area, which is now in Sierra Leone near Cape Mount, was made precisely for the 2 reasons just mentioned. Second, the settlements expanded when Africans voluntarily annexed their territories to Liberia. An example was the annexation of some parts of Bourgeois Island and New Georgia, over which King Peter ruled. When the Dey ruler died in 1829, his people requested that they be accepted under Liberia's protection. Voluntary annexation achieved many objectives for the Africans. It made it easier and safer for them to travel to the coastal towns to sell their products. The Africans also received help from or were assisted by Liberia when attacked by their neighbor. Third, means of expansion was force, and that became very common before and especially after the turn of the 19th century. Most of the lands acquired between 1822 and 1839 were obtained either directly or indirectly by Yehudi Ashmun. Ashmun purchased large tracts of land from Bassa kings, parts of which became Marshall Territory, now Margibi County, in honor of United States Chief Justice John Marshall. In their expansion, the colonies received much assistance from the United States government. The help was mainly in the form of arms and ammunition. Unlike Liberia, which was Monserrato at the time, which was founded by the ACS, or Bassa, Sino, and Maryland, which were established by auxiliary colonization societies, Grand Cape Mount County was not. Its acquisition began in 1826 when Yehudi Ashmun tried to purchase a tract of land from the Vai leadership. Well, students, learners, before you pick up your copybook and pencil and pen to write down your homework assignment, let's review our lesson for today. Between 1822 and 1839, Liberia was a colony of the American Colonization Society. That's the ACS. A colony is a country that is not free and independent. It was not until July 26, 1847, that Liberia became a free and independent state. Eli Aries governed the colony on and off between 1822 and 1823. He was finally succeeded by Yehudi Ashmun. The colonists and aborigines fought two major battles during the administration of Ashmun. We will refer to them as the Twin Battles of 1822. The first took place on November 10. It is known as the Battle of Crown Hill. In the history of Liberia, education and religion have been so closely tied together that it is very difficult to discuss one without the other. Economic progress was slow in Liberia between 1822 and 1839 for a number of reasons. Now students, please pick up your copybook and pencil and pen to write down your homework. Question number 1. Why was Liberia referred to as a colony between 1822 and 1839? Question number 2. What is the origin of Thanksgiving Day? Question number 3. In honor of what city is Edina named and why? Question number 4. Why have education and a Christian religion in Liberia been so closely tied together? Thank you, students. Our next lesson will focus on from the Commonwealth of Liberia to the Declaration of Independence, 1839 to 1847. That's it, class. If you have any questions or need clarification on today's lesson, please text them to the following numbers: 0880-618261 and 0770-741-3015. I have been your teacher, Linda Y. Dean. Goodbye.